Most lives are not limited by a lack of talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They are limited by hesitation, by the small pauses where fear, doubt, or overthinking quietly take control. The 5-second rule by Mel Robbins is a powerful wake-up call for anyone who feels stuck, overwhelmed, or tired of knowing what they should do but not doing it. This book introduces a deceptively simple idea with life-changing impact. When you feel the instinct to act, count backward from 5 and move before your mind talks you out of it. In those 5 seconds lies the difference between action and regret, confidence and self-doubt, momentum and stagnation. Mel Robbins shows us that courage is not something you wait for, it is something you practice in everyday moments. Through science, psychology, and real-life stories, the 5-second rule explains how our brains are wired to protect us through hesitation, and how this protection often becomes the very thing holding us back. Whether it's getting out of bed, speaking up, pursuing a dream, or changing a habit, the rule helps you interrupt fear and take control before excuses take over. This is not a book about motivation that fades. It's about building a habit of action, a method you can use anytime, anywhere, to reclaim your confidence and your sense of personal power. Small decisions, repeated daily, become the foundation of a transformed life. If you're ready to stop waiting for the right moment and start creating it, this book is for you. And if content like this helps you grow, think, and move forward, join our Wiser Reads community, because your journey toward a wiser, stronger life deserves to be shared. The Power of 5 Seconds. The Power of 5 Seconds introduces the core idea behind Mel Robbins' life-changing concept. Real transformation begins in the brief moment between instinct and hesitation. Every time you feel the impulse to act, get up, speak up, start something new, your brain has only a few seconds before it defaults to fear, doubt, or excuses. The 5-second rule is designed to interrupt that pattern. By counting backward 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then physically moving, you shift control from overthinking to action. This simple countdown works because it disrupts the brain's habit of self-protection, which often manifests as procrastination or avoidance. Instead of allowing fear to grow, the rule creates a window of courage where action becomes possible. This principle highlights an important truth. Confidence is not something you feel first, it's something you build by acting. The power of 5 seconds lies in its ability to turn intentions into behavior. Each small action reinforces self-trust, proving to yourself that you are capable of following through, even when you feel uncomfortable or uncertain. The chapter emphasizes that courage does not require dramatic changes or grand gestures. It is practiced in ordinary moments, getting out of bed when motivation is low, raising your hand when your voice shakes, or choosing progress over comfort. These micro-decisions compound over time, reshaping habits, mindset, and identity. Ultimately, the power of 5 seconds teaches that waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. The moment to act is now, before doubt takes over. When you use the 5-second rule consistently, you reclaim control over your choices, strengthen your confidence, and begin moving toward the life you want, one decisive moment at a time.
Why you hesitate and how to stop. Hesitation is not a personal weakness. It is a built-in survival mechanism. In Why You Hesitate and How to Stop, Mel Robbins explains that the human brain is designed to protect us from discomfort, uncertainty, and potential failure. The moment you consider doing something new or challenging, your brain interprets it as a threat and activates hesitation through doubt, fear, or overthinking. This pause often feels rational. Thoughts like, "I'll do it later," "I'm not ready," or "what if it goes wrong" seem reasonable, but they are actually automatic responses meant to keep you safe, not successful. The problem is that these protective instincts, when left unchecked, quietly sabotage growth, confidence, and progress. The key to stopping hesitation is understanding timing. You have only a few seconds between the initial instinct to act and the brain's attempt to shut it down. Once overthinking begins, hesitation gains control. That is why willpower alone often fails. It arrives too late. Instead, action must come first. The 5-second rule offers a practical solution. By counting backward and moving immediately, you interrupt the brain's fear response before it can fully take over. This physical act shifts your focus from emotion to behavior, giving you back control. Over time, repeated action retrains the brain, reducing hesitation and building self-trust. This chapter emphasizes that waiting to feel confident is a mistake. Confidence is the result of action, not the prerequisite. Each time you act despite hesitation, you weaken fear's influence and strengthen your belief in yourself. Ultimately, stopping hesitation is not about eliminating fear, but about refusing to let it decide for you. When you act within those 5 seconds, you choose growth over comfort and begin turning intention into consistent, meaningful progress.
The science behind taking action explores the neurological and psychological reasons why starting is often harder than continuing. Mel Robbins explains that the brain is wired to favor habits, predictability, and energy conservation. When faced with change or uncertainty, the brain perceives risk and responds by triggering stress, fear, or avoidance, even when the action is beneficial. At the center of this response is the brain's tendency to protect you from discomfort. The moment you hesitate, the prefrontal cortex begins to overanalyze potential outcomes, while the limbic system amplifies emotional reactions. This internal conflict leads to procrastination and inaction, not because you're incapable, but because your brain is following its default programming. The 5-second rule works because it interrupts this neurological loop. Counting backward engages the prefrontal cortex in a focused task, breaking the automatic fear response before it fully activates. By moving immediately after the countdown, you shift from thinking to doing, which reduces emotional resistance and builds momentum. This chapter also highlights the role of habit formation. Action creates feedback. Each time you act despite discomfort, your brain begins to associate action with reward rather than danger. Dopamine reinforces this behavior, making future action easier and more natural. Over time, small acts of courage rewire neural pathways, transforming effort into instinct. Importantly, the science shows that motivation follows action, not the other way around. Waiting to feel motivated keeps you stuck, while taking even the smallest step generates energy, clarity, and confidence. The brain learns through experience, not intention. Ultimately, the science behind taking action reveals that change does not require extraordinary discipline. It requires understanding how the brain works and using simple tools to work with it, not against it. By acting within 5 seconds, you bypass fear, retrain your brain, and create lasting behavioral change through consistent, intentional action. Interrupting fear and overthinking are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are automatic responses meant to keep you safe. In Interrupting Fear and Overthinking, Mel Robbins explains how these mental patterns arise the moment you step outside your comfort zone. When the brain senses uncertainty, it rapidly generates worst-case scenarios, self-doubt, and excuses, all designed to prevent potential risk. Overthinking gives fear a voice. The longer you stay Interrupting fear and overthinking are not signs that something is wrong with you. They are automatic responses meant to keep you safe. In Interrupting Fear and Overthinking, Mel Robbins explains how these mental patterns arise the moment you step outside your comfort zone. When the brain senses uncertainty, it rapidly generates worst-case scenarios, self-doubt, and excuses, all designed to prevent potential risk. Overthinking gives fear a voice. The longer you stay in your head, the stronger that voice becomes. Thoughts spiral from "what if I fail" to "what if I embarrass myself," and eventually to complete inaction. This mental loop creates the illusion of problem solving, but in reality, it drains energy and reinforces avoidance. The key to interrupting this cycle is speed. Fear grows with time, but action shrinks it. The 5-second rule is introduced as a mental pattern interrupter. By counting backward and moving immediately, you prevent fear from fully activating. This simple technique shifts attention away from emotional reactions and toward physical movement, which grounds you in the present moment. The chapter emphasizes that you cannot think your way out of fear, you must act your way through it. Taking action sends a powerful signal to the brain that you are safe, capable, and in control. Each time you act despite fear, you weaken its influence and build resilience. Importantly, the goal is not to eliminate fear or stop overthinking entirely. These responses are natural. The real skill is learning not to obey them. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. Ultimately, interrupting fear and overthinking teaches that control is reclaimed in the moment you choose action over analysis. By acting within 5 seconds, you stop mental spirals, reduce anxiety, and open the door to confidence, clarity, and forward momentum.
Building courage in everyday moments shifts the idea of courage away from dramatic acts and reframes it as a daily practice. Mel Robbins explains that real courage is not about fearless leaps or life-altering decisions, but about the small, ordinary choices you make when discomfort shows up. These moments, often quiet and unnoticed, are where confidence is truly built. Courage appears when you get out of bed despite resistance, speak up even when your voice trembles, or choose to begin when waiting feels safer. The brain naturally resists these moments, interpreting discomfort as danger. As a result, hesitation and self-doubt surface, tempting you to retreat into familiar patterns. The 5-second rule becomes a tool to meet these moments head-on. By acting within 5 seconds of an instinct, you interrupt avoidance and train yourself to respond with action rather than fear. Each small decision reinforces self-trust. Over time, this creates a powerful shift. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through. Confidence grows not from success alone, but from keeping promises to yourself. The chapter emphasizes that courage compounds. One small act of bravery makes the next one easier. These micro-actions reshape habits, relationships, and self-perception. Instead of waiting to feel ready, you learn that readiness is created through action. Comfort zones expand naturally when you step beyond them consistently. Importantly, everyday courage does not mean pushing yourself relentlessly. It means choosing progress over perfection and action over excuses. Even imperfect action counts because it moves you forward and builds momentum. Ultimately, building courage in everyday moments teaches that lasting change is the result of repeated, intentional choices. When you practice courage in the smallest moments, you build a foundation of confidence that supports bigger goals, stronger self-belief, and a life driven by purpose rather than fear.
From motivation to momentum challenges the common belief that motivation is the starting point for success. Mel Robbins explains that motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes based on mood, energy, and circumstances. Waiting to feel motivated often leads to delay, frustration, and stalled progress. Momentum, not motivation, is what creates lasting change. The chapter reveals a crucial insight. Action comes first. When you take even the smallest step forward, your brain responds with energy, clarity, and focus. This is because movement creates feedback. Each action produces a sense of progress, which releases dopamine and reinforces the desire to continue. Momentum builds naturally when you stop waiting and start moving. The 5-second rule plays a central role in initiating this process. By counting backward and acting immediately, you bypass hesitation and break the inertia of inaction. That first step, getting started, is the hardest, but it is also the most powerful. Once movement begins, resistance decreases and forward motion becomes easier. This chapter also emphasizes the importance of starting small. Momentum does not require big breakthroughs or perfect conditions. Simple actions, sending one email, standing up, opening a document, are enough to shift your state. These small wins accumulate, transforming effort into flow. Importantly, momentum changes identity. When you consistently take action, you stop seeing yourself as someone who procrastinates and start seeing yourself as someone who moves forward. Confidence grows as a byproduct of consistency, not intensity. Ultimately, from motivation to momentum teaches that success is not about feeling ready or inspired. It is about building motion through action. Once you create momentum, motivation follows, fear quiets down, and progress becomes sustainable, steady, and self-reinforcing.
Confidence is a skill you practice. Confidence is a skill you practice reframes confidence as something you build through action, not something you're born with or suddenly feel. Mel Robbins explains that many people believe confidence appears before taking action. But in reality, confidence is the result of repeatedly choosing to act despite fear, uncertainty, or discomfort. The chapter highlights a common trap: waiting until you feel ready. This mindset keeps people stuck because confidence cannot grow without experience. The brain learns confidence the same way it learns any skill, through repetition. Each time you act, speak up, or try again, you gather evidence that you can handle what comes next. The 5-second rule serves as the gateway to practicing confidence. By acting within 5 seconds of an instinct, you override hesitation and stop fear from dictating your choices. These moments may feel small, but they matter. Keeping even the smallest promise to yourself strengthens self-trust, which is the foundation of true confidence. Robbins also emphasizes that confidence grows through imperfect action. You do not need flawless execution or guaranteed success. What builds confidence is showing up, learning, and continuing forward. Mistakes and setbacks are part of the process, not proof of inadequacy. Over time, consistent action reshapes identity. You begin to see yourself as capable, reliable, and resilient. This internal shift reduces self-doubt and increases emotional strength. Confidence becomes less about how you feel and more about how you respond when things feel uncomfortable. Ultimately, confidence is a skill you practice, teaches that confidence is earned, not discovered. Every courageous action, no matter how small, adds to your confidence bank. When you practice showing up daily, confidence stops being a barrier and becomes a natural byproduct of your choices.
Beating procrastination at its source reframes procrastination not as laziness or lack of discipline, but as an emotional response. Mel Robbins explains that people procrastinate to avoid discomfort, fear of failure, fear of judgment, overwhelm, or even fear of success. The brain delays action as a way to protect you from these uncomfortable emotions. This chapter emphasizes that procrastination begins in the mind long before any task is ignored. The moment a task feels stressful or uncertain, the brain seeks relief by pushing it aside. This temporary avoidance may feel good, but it reinforces the habit of delay and increases anxiety over time. The more you avoid action, the heavier the task feels. The solution is not better planning or more motivation, it is immediate action. The 5-second rule is presented as a tool to stop procrastination before it takes hold. By counting backward and starting within 5 seconds, you bypass emotional resistance and prevent overthinking from escalating. Robbins also stresses the power of breaking tasks into the smallest possible actions. You don't need to finish, you only need to begin. Opening the document, standing up, or taking one step forward is enough to weaken procrastination's grip. Once movement starts, momentum follows. Another key insight is that self-forgiveness matters. Beating procrastination is not about harsh self-criticism, but about learning to respond differently in the moment hesitation appears. Each time you act instead of delay, you retrain your brain to associate action with relief rather than stress. Ultimately, beating procrastination at its source teaches that procrastination loses power when you address it at the emotional level. By acting quickly and consistently, you replace avoidance with progress and build a reliable habit of follow-through that supports long-term success.
Turning small decisions into big change focuses on the idea that transformation does not happen through dramatic moments, but through the accumulation of small, intentional choices made every day. Mel Robbins explains that life is shaped less by major events and more by the repeated decisions that often feel insignificant in the moment. Each small decision, getting up when the alarm rings, choosing to speak instead of stay silent, starting instead of delaying, sets a direction. While any single choice may seem minor, together they compound over time, creating habits, shaping identity, and determining outcomes. The 5-second rule becomes a practical way to ensure these decisions lead to growth rather than comfort. The chapter emphasizes that small decisions are powerful because they are repeatable. Big goals can feel overwhelming, but small actions are manageable. By acting within 5 seconds, you interrupt hesitation and align your behavior with your intentions. These quick choices reinforce self-trust and create consistency, which is the real driver of change. Robbins also highlights how small decisions influence self-image. Each time you follow through, you strengthen the belief that you are capable and dependable. Over time, this internal shift becomes more important than any external result. You don't just change what you do, you change who you believe you are. Another key insight is that progress does not require perfection. Missing a day or making a mistake does not erase growth. What matters is returning to action and continuing to choose forward movement. Small decisions allow flexibility while still creating momentum. Ultimately, turning small decisions into big change teaches that lasting transformation is built quietly, one choice at a time. When you consistently choose action over hesitation in everyday moments, those small decisions stack up, leading to meaningful, sustainable change in every area of life.
Creating a life you control brings together the core message of the 5-second rule. Your life changes the moment you take responsibility for your responses. Mel Robbins explains that control is not about managing every outcome or eliminating uncertainty, but about choosing how you act in the moments that matter most. Many people feel powerless because they wait for circumstances, emotions, or other people to change. This chapter challenges that mindset by showing that control begins internally. You may not control what happens, but you always control whether you act, delay, speak up, or stay silent. Those choices, repeated daily, define the direction of your life. The 5-second rule becomes a tool for reclaiming this control. By acting within 5 seconds of an instinct, you stop external influences and internal fears from making decisions for you. This immediate action reinforces personal authority and builds confidence in your ability to navigate life on your terms. Robbins emphasizes that taking control does not require dramatic reinvention. It starts with small, deliberate actions, setting boundaries, honoring commitments, and choosing progress over comfort. Each act of follow-through strengthens self-trust and reduces reliance on motivation or approval from others. The chapter also addresses fear and uncertainty, reframing them as inevitable parts of growth rather than obstacles. When you accept discomfort as a sign of forward movement, it loses its power to stop you. Action becomes a habit, not a reaction. Ultimately, creating a life you control teaches that freedom is built through consistent choice. When you stop waiting for permission and start acting with intention, you shift from reacting to life to leading it. Control is not something you gain all at once. It is something you practice, one courageous decision at a time.
Listening to the 5-second rule is more than absorbing ideas. It's experiencing a shift in how you see action, fear, and control. This book reminds us that change doesn't begin with confidence, motivation, or perfect conditions. It begins in a single moment of decision, the brief pause where you either move forward or let doubt decide for you. Throughout this journey, Mel Robbins shows that hesitation is not a flaw, procrastination is not laziness, and fear is not the enemy. They are signals, and within 5 seconds, you have the power to respond differently. By acting before overthinking takes over, you reclaim authority over your choices and your life. This book teaches that courage is built quietly, in getting out of bed when it's hard, in starting when you don't feel ready, in choosing progress over comfort. Small actions repeated daily create momentum. Momentum builds confidence, and confidence reshapes identity. You stop waiting for change and start becoming the person who creates it. The greatest lesson of the 5-second rule is simple but profound. You are always one decision away from a different direction. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You only need to move now. If this summary resonated with you, remember this: growth is easier when you don't walk alone. Join the Wiser Reads community, where ideas turn into insight and listening turns into action. Subscribe to the channel to keep feeding your mind with books that challenge, inspire, and move you forward. Because the decision to grow is often just 5 seconds away, and we'd love to take that journey with you.